Sabu and Thando visited the Pan Macmillan offices, and then we had an intriguing follow-up meeting, I'm sure you'll recall, in the long room at Wanderers at Pan Macmillan's launch of A.B. de Villiers' autobiography. Someone walked into the boardroom where we were having a discussion, the three of us, and his comment to me, only half in jest, was, "What are you doing with this man? He's a troublemaker. Stay away from him." But my impression was that Thando was straight talking and no nonsense. These are personality attributes and traits that I can identify with, and many an author will testify to being on the receiving end of when they find themselves missing a deadline. The more I learned about Thando's background and about his story, the more I knew that this was a book that Pan Macmillan would be proud to publish.
Speaking, we'd spent a lot of time with Thando, and some of the stories that were told, not necessarily with the intention of writing a book, because Thando and I formed a friendship, and the book wasn't the thing that brought us. We had a friendship, and only when the time was right, Thando approached the subject, and I realized that it had been sitting inside, eating him up for quite a while actually, and the only thing that had really disappointed him was the fact that he didn't really find anyone who would be as passionate about his story as he was, because it's his, he owns it, and he doesn't need to convince himself that it's worth writing a book about.
He's worked very hard. He's worked tirelessly on this book to make sure that that every single page you can hear Thando's voice. You can hear his heart, his thoughts, when he's happy, when he's sad, his frustrations. So get the book. It's really harrowing. There are a lot of moments where you're going to sit and wonder like, Eshmara, Thando man, Thando le man, why are some mamili? But you understand the man that he is, the fact that he would always be going against the grain, and that's the kind of heroes that we should be emulating, especially in this business, this world of rugby.
I was an altar boy.
A naughty one. A naughty altar boy.
Drinking wine. Yes. I think that's why I enjoyed that, because at St. Stephen's you'll get early. Ulungi said the wafers. I didn't like wafers. They didn't do anything. But I will go for a shot with Sam. Nice shot.
And be warm.
Sure. But something is happening to me. Yeah. But something is happening. I think we come from an era which many people can also attest to. We didn't grow up, in fact, get clever. The leader that was there, we made full use of it. Mama mdani mtana ngende one, it trifle. Why it trifle, and I would be the best boy in ala Sunday because it trifle. She will start kusasa, ayifake fridge ni sede, abuye ecaweni ayigqibezele. But to your question, my grandmother was a loving mother. I dedicate the book to her, and a very special someone. And Yenli, just stand up. This is Yenli Lishu, people. That's Yenli Lishu. You'll read more in the book about him and his father. That's the two people I dedicate the book for. Sorry.
Actually, tell me about the first time you met Uncle Mal. What was it about him that said, you're safe here?
So that relationship, the first time I met Uncle Mel, it was a welcoming experience. A fatherly love into a house. I did not stay outside like many of the people coming from Katanga at the time to come in and beg, because he used to feed them. He used to feed them without even checking what was there. Yenli Xavier always complained. Daddy, you always, and he would say Hanan. That was his favorite word, because he felt the need to feed the people. So those are the people that in my life played a shadowly role in my upbringing. We are frustrated. of, and I'm happy that Mr. Sam is here, Gideon Sam, Saskok president. And the reason I'm happy is, Mr. Sam, I'm not here to change people's mind. I've said to you over the phone, we need new, young, dynamic administrators. We definitely do need. If I look today at Craven Week, a guy called Toby Titus is running out of teeth, but he's been in the system for a very long time. Since the Craven Week came into force, Mr. Sam, it has never, ever been played in the townships. And the reason I make mention of St. Cynthians, despite all the rugby fields, they're only using two. Therefore, it can't be difficult for me to take it to the Swallows ground in Tanzania, where there's three. Yes. There's three, Mr. Sam. There's one on top, there's two next to each other, and you are. Is it the whiteness of Craven Week that must not be tainted? That's the question. It's a dialogue. And one of the things that I like about today is you take it, and as an individual, you see what you want to do with it. The young journalist, Kanyiso Chwaku. Now, they're Vata Ngobenis. They have to not write with the ink now, Omsem. They have to write with a Koki pen. In 2017, over 25 years of a Dr. Danny Craven legacy has been in the white establishment. It cannot be right when you've spent over $500 million on development.
Jesus, where is that man?
It cannot be right as the mother body of South African sport. It can't be. So when I did drama, excelled at drama, I was in standard 9. It's 1995. It's a new dawn for South African rugby. Rugby World Cup is going to be happening. It's going to be played at the Boet Erasmus. Oh, Mr. Martin, I thought he was caught up in the Rugby World Cup because St. Thomas was never rugby school. And then he met me in the parking lot. I don't know what we're doing, but he met me in the parking lot. And then he said, hey, young man, he was a funny guy. He used to teach us geography, if I'm not mistaken. And then he said, look, can you help us out? We're short of numbers. You'll play. I think number 8 at the time. I didn't even know what's number 8 of flank or long, like I know today. And then I put it in, and then I go on to the field. We play Otto Duplessis. We beat Otto Duplessis. I scored 4 tries.
You didn't even know what you were doing, Ahleka.
No.
Going, I know I have to be
told.
beyond the
Yes.
white line, put the ball down.
Yes.
Yay. That's it.
Predominantly, St. Thomas is an English Afrikaans school. The team is made up of Afrikaans-speaking boys. In that, I managed to convince Ulanga Tsotsobe, who's the brother of Nomsebenzi Tsotsobe, and his father. Based on his father, who was a great left winger, I put Ulanga as a winger. That his father played wing, so he'll play wing.
You who doesn't know the game.
Yes, I don't know the game, but I've been told we're looking for a wing. So I say he must play wing. That photo never made it to the gallery, like Andrea said. I was upset, but later on I had a cup of coffee, was fine. My first ever team photo in a rugby team. It's not on, but it's fine. But it's better photos there. So I think for me, I always say this and I'm going to repeat it. There's a difference between falling in love with a sport. I fell in love when Mr. Martin introduced me to that sport. It was love at first sight. I will forever love the game. I will forever, Mr. Sam, stand for the game like you've done. I will forever have enemies. I will be forever called tyrants. What they cannot take away from me, Mo, is the love. Because it's not a girlfriend. It's not a wife. I cannot divorce it. I will always go to a rugby game and I will always love the game. I fell in love. I dropped everything. My love came back because the anger had gone down. I had matured. And one of my biggest celebrations, you'll read about it, is when I did a play called Sizwe Banzi is Dead with the original artist, John Carney, Winston Jona, and the arriving co-actor to those two phenomenons is none other than Thabo Mbeki, who I get to go and watch the same production when no one has ever did, to invite a state president to fly with his entourage to watch a Thando Manana production.
I'm going to talk about the Kontiki drama. Okay. On page 173, this is Jake White. This is how he remembers it.
Do you want me to read it?
No, I want to read it in his autobiography. You've already read it 1,000 times. He says the midweek team was almost traveling in isolation from the test team. They'd beaten Argentina A in Tucumán, where Greek was flanked. Thando Manana made his Bok debut and famously refused to be initiated. His reasoning was sound, believing that it passed through his tribal Xhosa initiation into manhood and that such a ritual should only be endured once in his life. It raised an interesting dynamic in the Bok camp because it wasn't an issue anybody had ever considered or had to contend with before. I found that powerful. It raised an interesting dynamic in the Bok camp because it wasn't an issue anybody had ever considered. No one had ever thought to have the conversation about culture. So when you talk in the book also about your initiation, and pardon me if I'm stepping on cultural ground, you'll tell me when I should back off, and you had a pretty traumatic time there. Did the trauma of that cultural initiation, your rite of passage, did that trauma have anything to do with the resentment that you had for that moment in Argentina?
Big question.
The first resentment was day 5, Esothui. That was the first one. Now, I have my other seniors in the building. They're saying that's enough.
Let's move on.
So I will move on.
Yes, please.
Because the bottle stores are closed. And I don't want to come here tomorrow to buy a bottle. Gosh. Mensa. Now, Mo, we'll have to go overseas for this one. We'll have to go overseas for this one.
This moment right here.
It is quite barbaric what happens in a Kontiki. I don't blame Mr. Sam at all. I think it was my first Springbok tour. It was also his first Springbok tour. But he was part of that negotiation of making them understand as a Xhosa man himself. And I thank him for that. My stance is one. I had seen there's a pull stick. Now, if someone has to bend, give the backside towards this person, and you get hit up until they request a second one, and you're unable to walk for 2 days, and you say that is pride to be a Springbok, then it's a wrong Springbok that we want to represent. Secondly, If Nick Mallet, I don't want to be quoted, but I'll say this. He is not my role model when it comes to rugby analysis. He is biased. If you can't say and give credit to someone when credit is due, I don't have respect for you as a rugby analyst. He had stopped. There was no Kontiki. And when he was fired, the late Jos van der Westhuizen, Mr. Blue Eyes, Andre Fanta, Mark Andrews, and some of the seniors at the time, I don't know who, Mr. Sam is here, maybe during the Q&A someone might ask him who was a part of that meeting that opened the floodgates for us to have a Kontiki on that day. Because that changed an entire thinking path of mine. That I couldn't even speak to Lawrence, because Lawrence. That's how I can best describe him. He knows the truth, but he keeps it within himself as if he owes people any explanation not to say something. That's him. And I don't want to talk badly because we come a long way. He's a friend of mine. I'd so like to change his mind that he become a better person and have an opinion that he stands by, not wait for people to jump in first. Rather, he goes first, but it's fine. So mine was very simple. Once I was not doing this. Very simple. My roommate is Dion Kaiser, who in fact, Mr. Sam, I met on Monday. I put one question to him. Why are you not coaching? Because you'd been a coach at the Sharks under 20. Why are you not coaching? That's what happens to our people. They are yo-yos. Left, right, left, center. And they become very scared to choose their own careers. Because they are thinking of a livelihood. That I can't blame them sometimes. But it needs a man with those things which we know between the two legs to really look after himself. What was important for me was not leaving or becoming someone that refused, as they branded me. Because newspaper will pounce on anything. And this time, unfortunately, they don't pounce on black excellence. They pounce on black mistakes because they strive on that. And my mistake was not a mistake, to be quite honest. If people ask me, do you have any regret? The answer is always no regret. You know why? I stood my ground. I fought for a culture that I was born in and that I went through the passage of becoming a man. I'm very comfortable with my skin color. That's the first thing. And when Soli Kibilika died, I had one of the most painful experience was to stand in front of his family and the mourners at his funeral. I was given that task to talk, and you'll read in the book what I say, exactly what I said. And in summing up what I'd spoken about, I said, pointing, Mac Masina, you were there, you drove all the way from Joburg to his funeral. Owen Kumani, I don't see Owen now, I don't know, maybe he's changing. But this is what I said, and I pointed to his coffin. His death summarizes what it means to be a black Springbok. His death, dying in a tavern where most people want to see us end in a tavern. And and an example which should be regretful that he had to go that path and die in a tavern. And that is why I dedicated a chapter to Soli. I said, my good friend Soli. It's a lesson that you have as a person, Danny, to make a decision that will always, Lizo Kaboka, I'm telling you this because you're part of a Springbok squad. We have a lot of hope for you. You have to stand your ground, because as many people say, and I differ with them, the sky is the limit. It's not. You can go beyond the sky. And therefore, I derived at being a black Springbok from that funeral. Simple reason, I was comfortable with my skin color. Everyone has got an opinion. They might like it, they might not like it. There are people who are going to read the book in their homes and will not say, I read your book. You know why? Because of the blackness that is in that book. And I'm very proud that it was agreed upon that we will go with that language. And that's why you see many folks coming in. These are parents that will also take a lot of heart from the book and make sure that their kids, despite them going to a model C school, they're comfortable with being black.
For me, any black person who works in white spaces will find a lot of comfort and a lot of inspiration to keep moving forward. You know, there's a chapter called Feeling Blue, and it goes from bad to worse, bad to worse, bad to worse, and it reminded me of a time when it was going bad to worse, bad to worse, bad to worse, but you still just stood up, you still made decisions, you still decided that you want to be the best, no matter what is coming your way. And for that I thank you, both of you, for writing this book. Thando, for putting yourself out there.